Nathan Roth, The Hypnotic Patterns Handbook, 75 hypnotic patterns and techniques that will make you more persuasive. Introduction. This book is designed to give you the tools you need to become a better influencer and to begin giving people the kinds of magical experiences we usually associate with charisma. Hypnotic language patterns are the exact sequence of words that we can use to be more persuasive and influential. Like many others, I fell in love with hypnosis when I first discovered its potential for influence and persuasion. This is one of the reasons people become interested in hypnosis. Its potential for powerful, communicating ideas is unrivaled. Human beings, by our very nature, are attracted to power, whether it's the power of spirituality, the power of technology, or the power of strategy. We are attracted to power, and hypnosis is one of the avenues that leads to power. Just be aware, I'm talking about personal power, not coercive dictator level power. The desire for power isn't a bad thing. Everyone lacks control in some area of their life, and it would be a lie to say we aren't all looking for ways to exert control in order to feel more secure. That being said, I should say that hypnosis has a habit of attracting people who sometimes find they don't feel comfortable simply asking for what they want. If in the past you have had difficulty just asking for what you want, then I want you to know that I understand. I've been there, and it was one of my single greatest motivators for wanting to learn hypnosis. That being said, I hope you will realize as you read this book that it is important to learn to be direct as much as being indirect. There are two sides of the same coin. Direct versus indirect suggestions. So, let's get right to the difference between direct and indirect suggestions. A direct suggestion is just asking someone to do exactly what you want them to do. For example, close your eyes. Pay attention to me. Relax the muscles in your back. Pass the salt. The only difference with an indirect suggestion is that it presents the suggestion more as an option rather than an ultimatum. For example, you can close your eyes. You might pay attention to me. I wonder when you will relax the muscles in your back. Can you pass the salt? You will notice I have emboldened the parts of the suggestions that do what we call softening the suggestion. Softening a suggestion means taking a direct suggestion and making it indirect. When we do this, the suggestion is interpreted as an option instead of a direct command that it must happen. The benefit of indirect suggestion is that it has the effect of occupying a subject's conscious mind with the appearance of possibility and choice. But here's what is really cool about that. But here's what's really cool about that. Because the unconscious mind is always processing language in order to make sense of things. So, in order for those suggestions to have any meaning, the whole entire content of them needs to be experienced at some level by unconscious. When we communicate in hypnotically, we are primarily looking to get unconscious responses. And the purpose of language patterns is that they occupy the conscious mind while sending the important bits of information directly into the unconscious. I'll give you a simple example of how your unconscious is always making sense of language, whether you are aware of it or not. If I say, don't think of a black cat, you still have to think of the black cat before you can carry out the instruction of not thinking of a black cat. Not thinking of a black cat requires that you know what it is you shouldn't be thinking about. It is a weird experiment, but putting it plainly, it's impossible to avoid something when you don't know what it is you're trying to avoid. And so the unconscious mind needs points of reference in order to create meaning. It is this implicit need to have a point of reference that we are using to create influence and hypnotic communication. You'd be amazed the number of times I have indirectly attended a hypnotic suggestion for relaxation in a number of what I thought were pretty magical and artful ways. But instead of relaxation, I just got a perplexed and slightly expectant person staring back at me. Eventually, I would get fed up and say, "Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and relax." You'd be amazed the number of times I have indirectly attempted a hypnotic suggestion for relaxation in a number of what I thought were pretty magical and artful ways. But instead of relaxation, I just got a perplexed and slightly expectant person staring back at me. Eventually, I would get fed up and say, "Take a deep breath, close your eyes and relax." That phrase, in and of itself, is one of the most beautiful hypnotic phrases. It exemplifies everything hypnotic language should strive for. It's simple, it's specific, and it sequentially leads someone from one point to another. And while it is in fact a direct hypnotic suggestion for relaxation, more importantly, it is what's called hypnotic sequence. Hypnotic sequencing. A big part of influence is knowing what you want to happen in your subject. I refer to the person being hypnotized as a subject, not in the sense that they are an experimental subject, though if that works for you, feel free to do that. I refer to the person being hypnotized as a subject, not in the sense that they are an experimental subject, though if that works for you, feel free to do that. I refer to them as a subject because they are the subject of my communication. I'm completely and entirely focused on the subject and how they are responding to my words. I want things to be as relevant as possible to them, and that doesn't have to mean it is a topic they are already interested in, because often people will feel things are relevant as long as their genuine excitement behind it is theirs. Because often people will feel things are relevant as long as there is genuine excitement behind it. So the first thing you must do in order to be more hypnotic and influential is to know what you want to happen. Once you know what you want, the most important ingredients to having influence are sequencing and repetition of suggestions. Sequencing is how you order your suggestions. In general, people want to feel like they are being led somewhere. And if you keep circling around the same idea and it doesn't evolve, then they can get the sense that you are clueless. Unfortunately, people don't usually trust clueless people. Sequencing is the antidote to appearing as if you don't know what you are doing. If you want to take it till you make it, if you want to fake it till you make it, then learn to sequence it. I will come back to our original example of sequencing, which is written as a direct suggestion for achieving relaxation. Take a deep breath, close your eyes and relax. Now, the first step to being able to sequence suggestions is knowing what you are after. In this case, we are after relaxation. Okay, so we want relaxation, then what? The way I like to think of it is if I am after relaxation, then I would think of situation where relaxation is a natural occurrence. So when I think about it, I know that when people sleepy, they are relaxing. What's the general order of things when a person falls asleep? You don't need to be specific with sequencing. There just needs to be somewhat natural flow from one point to the next. So, when a person is falling asleep, they might stretch, take a deep breath, stare at the ceiling, then get a little more tired, and finally close their eyes as they relax. The cool thing about sequencing suggestions is you don't need every step of the sequence you're trying to recreate. You can skip steps, but because the unconscious mind sees a pattern, it will automatically fill in the blanks and still go into the desired state. So, if you wanted, you could reformat the previous suggestion as stretch your arms, take a deep breath, and relax. The thing about sequencing is you really can fake it. As long as you move from one point to another and away from where you started, it will feel as if it's a journey. When I say that you can fake sequencing, I mean language that is floaty and lacks a certain amount of detail. An example of fake sequencing would be something like, as you read this, there are certain ideas that will have more of an impact. And because learning is unconscious, and because we can learn something and not realize we have learned it means we don't have to notice everything we are learning. Because the best ideas often take hold when we are least aware of it. Now, if you haven't already noticed, the ideas being presented have an almost what I call wishy-washy feeling to them. They lack concreteness, which is really just another way of saying they lack detail. Keep in mind that maintaining an air of certainty when you speak hypnotically is crucial. Just seeing things written hypnotically can be a bit strange at first. It's the matter-of-fact delivery that hides the strangeness of it. I wanted to read that example apart and show you that even though it is hypnotic, it still suffers from somewhat confusing lack of detail, because there is a simple solution to this. So in the next section, we are going to be talking about the difference between being vague versus being specific. Vague versus specific language. And you can, because you really can. And I don't know how long before your unconscious will find what you have needed all along, and so when it is appropriate, you will start making those changes. A confusing hypnotist. The goal we are after when speaking hypnotically is to be artfully vague. We usually artfully vague because the trick is to appear as if you are being specific. If people feel you are being consistently vague, again, you will get weird looks. There are many ways you can sell a vagueness through tone, pitch, and demeanor, but those all relate to communicating with the kind of certainty that what you are doing has a definite purpose. In this section, I want to give you an understanding of the difference between speaking vaguely and speaking specifically. These are both desirable ways of speaking because someone who isn't in a trance yet will require more concrete information. With somebody in a deeper trance, you can get away with being absurdly vague, just like that quote at the beginning of this section. The secret to being vague is about deleting what are called specified verbs and nouns. A popular example of this is, and you can wonder, depending on the amount of rapport and imagination with your subject, they might find that they really can wonder. That being said, people not yet in rapport or that require more details will need a bit more guidance and specificity from you. So, an example of more concrete version of the phrase above is, and you can wonder which thought you will become aware of next. That's more concrete, but again, it is still a bit vague. So now, I am going to give you a series of progressively more specific versions, so you can see the progression from vague to specific. And you can wonder what you will discover in trance. You could discover just about anything, so it's vague. And you can wonder where you will go on vacation. There is likely a few places that would pop in their mind for this. And you can wonder which color is your favorite. There is only one color that's their favorite. And you can wonder about the last time you felt happy. There is only one last time they felt happy, and the content of this experience will be unique to that memory. So you can see the progression from vague to concrete happening. The last two examples are likely interchangeable, because a good amount of people, when asked if they can wonder about the last time they felt happy, will actually go through a list of happy experiences and then choose the one that represents the last time they were happiest. Typically, as hypnotic suggestions become more concrete, they come to identify a more specific class of experience. For example, John moved to his car. John could be running, walking, skipping for all we know. So an example of a more specific class of experience would be John walked to his car. Now we know how John got to his car. In our example above, moving is a very general class of experience. Running, walking, and skipping are more specific classes of experience. Being able to control the class of experience someone goes through is one of the most important aspects to being hypnotic and influential. As you will remember, the less specific you are, the less chance you have of people disagreeing with you. But again, if you are too vague with people, you will get weird looks. The hypnotic language framework I'm going to give you will allow you to be artfully vague. What makes the hypnotic language framework so powerful is that it gives you access to the types of words which appear specific, but which are maximally open to interpretation. Because they are open to interpretation, you will have a lot less people disagreeing with you. Some examples of these types of words are motivation, focus, ambition, initiative, respect, success, creativity, discovery. If we talk about motivation, you and I will both generally believe we're both talking about the same thing. Motivation is what allows us to get things done. The reality is that for you and I, motivation is likely experienced in different ways. In an even more obvious distinction, you and I probably achieve motivation in different ways. And the motivation that we need changes from situation to situation. But as you will learn, being able to use these kinds of loaded words allows you to appear as if you are saying a lot, when really you are not really saying anything in particular. Politicians and leaders are exceptional at doing this. Not everything they say needs to be perfect or impactful. because they are doing this all the time. They are often just riffing off the top of their head, keeping people occupied until they actually land on something they feel is concrete. When they hit something they actually feel is concrete and important, you will typically notice a change in their emotional state and delivery, as they will punctuate that moment and thought so that it sinks in. In my personal opinion, all great speakers do this. 80% of what they say is filler, but it's the 20% of it that is impactful and appears meaningful. And that 20% is always filled with these types of loaded words. We will come back to loaded words again later. But before we do that, I want to dive straight into some basic hypnotic patterns and examples you can use immediately. At this stage, it's all about getting familiar and just getting a feel for the patterns. After that, we will introduce you to the hypnotic language framework and show you how it will make your hypnotic patterns more powerful and believable. 33 hypnotic language patterns. With suggestion, I want you to remember that it's about repetition and receptivity. With suggestion, I want you to remember that it is about repetition and receptivity. The more receptive a person is, the less you have to repeat a particular suggestion. The less receptive a person is, the more you have to repeat a suggestion in a variety of ways so that it sinks in and is acted on. I will give you a quick example from Milton Erickson, the father of indirect hypnosis. In a session with a client, he needed them to look at his hand, so he directed his gaze towards his hand and said, "As you look, as you watch my hand." Here is the number of suggestions in that example. Non-verbal suggestion of him looking at his hand is first one. Second one, as you look, suggestion to look. Third one, as you watch my hand, suggestion to watch his hand. That's three suggestions in just 9 words. So be aware that in the examples I am about to show you, that I am generally just showing one suggestion per pattern. In the following 33 patterns examples, I am going to be focusing on the simple hypnotic themes of relaxation and trance. Patterns. First one. I am not going to say blank because blank. Example. I am not going to say how much you will relax because it is up to you to notice how comfortable you are. Second. If blank, then blank. Does that seem fair? Example. If we talk about ways you can learn to relax, then I'm going to have you do some breathing exercise so you can relax more easily. Does that seem fair? Third. I wonder blank. Example. I wonder how deeply in trance you will go. Fourth. I don't know whether blank or blank. Example. I don't know whether you will go into trance now, or if as your breathing continues relaxing, you will feel a sense of peace and calm wash over you. Fifth, I wouldn't tell you to blank because blank. I wouldn't tell you to close your eyes and relax, because when you feel it's appropriate, that can happen all by itself. Sixth, one of these things you're really going to love about blank is blank. One of the things you are really going to love about going into trance is just how easily you can go deeply into trance. Seventh, what happens when you blank? Example. What happens when you feel relaxed? Eighth, eventually blank. Example. Eventually you will feel a wave of relaxation wash over your body in an especially pleasant way. Ninth, in the days and weeks ahead, blank. Example. In the days and weeks ahead, you will notice yourself relaxing more easily. 10th, said blank. Example. When I was having a panic attack, Emily said stop for a moment and just close your eyes and relax. 11th. I wonder if you have already started to notice blank. Example. I wonder if you have already started to notice just how comfortable the chair is. 12th. I don't know if you have already begun to notice blank. Example. I don't know if you have already begun to notice how much you're relaxing. 13th. I'm wondering if blank. Example. I'm wondering if you are aware of just how much you're relaxing. 14th. By the time you have started to blank, you will blank. Example. By the time you have started to notice the changes in your breathing, you will already be going into trance. 15th. How would it feel if you blank? Example. How would it feel if you were relaxed and all your troubles had completely washed away? 16th. People are able to blank. Example. People are able to relax as much as they need to. 17th. You might blank. Example. You might remember the last place you really found it easy to relax. 18th. You may blank. Example. You may be relaxing and not notice you are relaxing. 19th. I'm going to blank. Example. I'm going to take a moment and relax. Even though you're talking about yourself, the effect is that they are likely to respond to the suggestion as if you told them to do it. 20th. Is it okay for me to blank? Example. Is it okay for me to sit down and relax? Same as a bow. 21. You can blank. Example. You can relax by allowing the muscles in your body to let go of all the leftover tension. 22nd. The fact that fact means blank. Example. The fact that you are sitting means it is even easier to relax and let go. 23rd. You might become aware of blank when you blank. You might become aware of a growing sense of fascination when you notice just how easily your body can relax. 24th. When you really begin to blank, then blank. Example. When you really begin to follow my voice, then you will relax even faster. 25th. You can try not to think about blank. Example. You can try not to think about how much you are relaxing, and yet still feel a growing sense of comfort with each and every breath you take. 26th. How does it feel when you blank? Example. How does it feel when you are utterly and completely relaxed? 27th. Don't blank too quickly. Example. Don't get comfortable too quickly. 28th. There is no need to blank any faster than you feel it is appropriate. Example. There is no need to relax any faster than you feel it is appropriate. 29th. I don't know whether you will blank or blank or blank. Example. I don't know whether you will start relaxing now or if you will notice the muscles in your body relaxing, or just simply close your eyes and ... 30th. You may be aware of blank as you blank. Example. You may be aware of the change in focus of your eyes as you go deeper into trance. 31st. Isn't it nice to know blank? Example. Isn't it nice to know you can still think and relax at the same time? 32nd. There is no need for you to blank. Example. There is no need for you to go completely into trance. 33rd. I could say blank, but blank. Example. I could say you're going to relax, but only your unconscious knows when you will relax.